What's up everyone, I'm Tim and this is my channel 40 Times Around, where we talk about everything related to motorcycles, camping, travel, and adventure. And today I'm going to share 5 beginner motorcycle travel mistakes that you should avoid making. Alright, so like I said, today we're going to talk about 5 beginner motorcycle travel mistakes. These are mistakes that I've learned the hard way, so hopefully you don't have to. Now this is actually a follow-up to a video I did a while ago. I'll actually link to that right here. 5 other mistakes that you should avoid making. I've actually made quite a few mistakes when it comes to motorcycle travel and motorcycle camping. So this way at least you don't have to learn everything the hard way. Real quick, before we jump into this video, I do want to talk about something that I think is kind of important to mention. And that is, you definitely shouldn't be so afraid to make mistakes when you're motorcycle traveling. It's all part of the adventure. Now, I say that I've made a ton of mistakes, and that way you guys don't have to learn the hard way. Well, hopefully I'll save you a little bit of trouble. But don't be afraid to go out and try things, explore different ways of doing things, you know? These are just my suggestions. This isn't like a concrete, carved in stone, this is the only way it can be. These are some things that I personally learned the hard way. Maybe you can learn from them, maybe you'll test them out anyway. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. Maybe you'll have better luck with some of the mistakes that I didn't have so much luck with. So definitely don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's all part of the adventure, and just get out there and try things. That's the most important thing, is that you're venturing off, you know, you just get out there and you go on an adventure and make mistakes. You'll learn that way. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the 5 mistakes right now. Okay. Mistake number 1 is not taking enough pictures or videos. On my first big trip, we did actually take a decent amount of pictures, but I took no video, and I regret that so much. I saw so many amazing things, and because it was my first trip, that in particular was it was a special trip for me, and I wish I had some videos of it. Of course, I have the memories, I have the pictures that I took, could have taken more pictures. Another thing too is to make sure you're keeping a journal, just some kind of daily log. I actually put together a little video about why you should keep a journal. I'll link to it right here. But it's just so important because, especially if you're on a big trip, like a long trip, more than a couple days, it's so easy for things to just slip away from you. Memories to just not quite get their footing before something new and exciting happens. So it's so important to document your trip. Even if you're not making videos for YouTube, it doesn't hurt to have a few little clips from a GoPro, a helmet cam, or anything, just to remember your trip by. So that's mistake number 1. Okay, mistake number 2 that I definitely was guilty of on my first big trip was not talking to enough people, not meeting new people often enough. I was traveling in a group. I had my girlfriend at the time with me, and I had my best friend with me, and we really were kind of in a bubble on that trip. We really just stuck to ourselves. If there was a problem, there was never really a need to branch out from our group. We just kind of figured it out within ourselves. I found when you travel solo, this is a huge advantage, in fact, of traveling solo, and a huge disadvantage of traveling with a group. When you're alone and a problem happens, you're more apt to have to go out and seek help or find direction from somebody, and you're going to meet a lot more people that way. And what I've learned over the years of traveling is that meeting people is far more important than seeing beautiful scenery. The people you meet on the road while you're traveling, that's what really makes the story of your journey. My recommendation is that you don't get caught in a bubble if you're in a group. You should at some point in your life, I think, travel alone. I actually did a video on this too, about the debate between traveling in a group or traveling solo. Link to that right here too. But just make sure that no matter who you're traveling with, whether you're alone or you're with a group, that you're meeting new people. You're putting yourself out there, you're shaking hands with people, whatever the case may be. Just get out there and be social while you're traveling. That's part of the fun. You meet so many interesting people on the road. Definitely don't miss out on that aspect of it. Mistake number 3 was not making food more a part of the adventure, of the journey. What I mean by this was not eating local often enough. Pretty often when I was on the road on my first few trips, I was just doing the convenient thing. I was going to fast food restaurants. Now, of course, you know, I did the obvious things. When I was in New Orleans, I had gumbo. When I was in Memphis, I did the barbecue thing. I did the obvious things as I was traveling, but I missed out on a lot of hole-in-the-wall dives, diners, things like that that you really get a lot more culture at. So what I wish I had done, and what I've been doing more and more on my more recent trips, is that I find where the locals are eating and I try to eat there. I try to find small mom and pop shops, not the, Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger Kings, but go a little off the beaten path and find what the locals are eating at. It's usually pretty good. Okay, mistake number 4. This was not giving myself enough cushion days. I barely had any on my first trip. You want to take a few days where you plan no miles at all. And you may not use that 0 on that particular day, but it's just a nice cushion day. It can kind of be a floating day or two off, depending on how long you're traveling. Make sure you have some time to allow for the adventure to happen, for things to go wrong. Maybe you find out about something you weren't planning on. So with my first trip, I had an itinerary. I had all these things lined up that I wanted to see, and I had this idea in my head of, I'm going to see all of these things. And there was this constant sense of, if I didn't keep pace, I was going to miss out on things at the tail end of the trip. And it was just this constant, like, move forward, keeping up with this pace that looked great on paper. It seemed totally reasonable. But in actuality, when I got out on the road and things started happening, I started spending more time places than I thought. It started raining and hailing and wind and all these other things that set me back, getting lost. All of the adventure things were just making the trip that I thought was such a loose itinerary just so tight. So allow for some time off. Don't bite off more than you can chew, and allow for yourself to discover new places and spend more time in areas that you maybe weren't planning on. Okay, mistake number 5. This is relying too much on credit cards, not saving enough for the trip. Did this on my first trip and I came home with a lot of debt because of that. I definitely don't recommend that. Another mistake I made on the trip that's in line with this is that I wasn't budget conscious enough. I wasn't thinking in the beginning, okay, this is how much money I have. I'm trying to be gone for this many days. This is what I should spend every day. I was just kind of spending what needed to be spent, or at least what I thought needed to be spent. And I really spent a lot more than I should have. To be honest with you, I probably could have been gone for 3 or 4 times as long as I was for the same amount of money. So that was pretty hard to swallow when I got home. So just be budget conscious. Honestly, you should try to get rid of your credit card debt before you even leave, because you don't want to be, if you're traveling for more than a month, you don't want to be carrying around bills that aren't really necessary. You want to make sure that you do actually budget and save enough money for the trip. And try to avoid using credit cards. Of course, you should have some with you for an emergency situation, but try not to be racking up debt while you're out roaming around. It's not great to come home to that. Okay, hopefully you're still with me on this one. This is a bonus tip, and I actually think this is probably the most important tip of this video. And the tip is, don't put off your trip. I think the mistake I made on my first big trip was that I waited way too long in life to start traveling on a motorcycle. When I think about how many more trips I could have gone on, and if I had done my first big trip earlier, my priorities in life would have been different. I would have spent my money differently and prepared for things differently. Probably wouldn't have gone down some roads I shouldn't have really been down anyway. If I had started doing this sooner, it would have just consumed my life sooner in such a positive way for me. I just feel like I missed out. I wasted a lot of time not traveling on a motorcycle. And for me personally, I found this is a huge passion for me, traveling on bikes and going on adventures. And I think in a lot of ways, maybe I found it early, but I feel like I found it kind of late, to be honest with you. So the mistake was waiting too long in life to start doing this stuff, to get out there and start doing anything adventure-like. I started a little bit late on this stuff. So anyways, those are my 5 motorcycle travel mistakes and 1 bonus tip for this video. So I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell if you haven't already. That way you don't miss anything whenever I post something new about motorcycles, camping, travel, and adventure. Question of the day: what is a mistake you've made motorcycle traveling that you want to share with the rest of us? Maybe a funny story that happened to you. Let us know in the comments below. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.